I'm Spencer Harris, and I did my PowerPoint presentation on Victorian author Robert Louis Stevenson and his novella The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. First, I would like to start off with some biographical information on my author. Robert Louis Stevenson was born in Edinburgh, Scotland on November 13, 1850. Stevenson was born into a well-respected family where his father was a well-known lighthouse designer in Scotland. Most of Robert Louis Stevenson's childhood, he suffered from tuberculosis, which kept him bedridden most of the times. At 17 years old, he decided to follow in his father's footsteps and enroll in Edinburgh University to study engineering, which was considered a family trade due to his father and his father's father being engineers. Not too long after enrolling in the engineering school, he switched majors to law. Engineering wasn't what he truly wanted to do. That was more of what his father pushed him to do. Robert Louis Stevenson emerged from law school in 1875. An interesting fact about my author was that he traveled a lot more than other Victorian writers due to his tuberculosis. His traveling gave him different climates which helped with his breathing. Robert Louis Stevenson married Fanny Osborne in 1880. Robert Louis Stevenson also wrote many great novels including Treasure Island and The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which later were adapted into films. In 1889, Stevenson settled in the Samoan Islands before dying of a stroke on December 3, 1894 at his home in Samoa. Stevenson was 44 years old at the time of his death. These are just some images of Robert Louis Stevenson's novel that I thought were unique and nice to give you an example of what Dr. Jekyll looked like and what he became when he became Mr. Hyde. To give a brief overview of the novella is about a prominent doctor by the name of Dr. Jekyll, who is known to follow all societal expectations. He throws dinner parties for his wealthy friends, but little do all his friends know, he has a deep dark secret. He longs to be evil. The story is about the doctor being socially repressed and wanting to be evil. So he creates a potion that allows him to feed his dark appetite and commit crimes, therefore becoming Mr. Hyde, whom is a deformed man that fulfills all of Dr. Jekyll's evil wants. Towards the end, eventually good and evil fight to control the body of the doctor, and the doctor commits suicide so that his evil side won't take over him fully. The connection between Robert Louis Stevenson and his novella The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde that I focused on was the idea of double consciousness. Stevenson had a high interest in double consciousness. In his personal life, he had also felt he experienced double consciousness. So just like Dr. Jekyll wanting to fulfill his dark side and the side that he's expected to be, author Robert Louis Stevenson was said to have felt like two different people when he was sick. When he was sick, he would split off into another consciousness and feel like a different person. And this person would actually benefit him with his writing. He said that the person that he split off into was a dark and creative and seething man. Lastly, I wanted to do a connection with the novella in the Victorian era. The Victorian era was full of expectations for the middle class and the classes above it. An issue posed in the novella, just as in the Victorian era, is social hypocrisy. Victorian society had expectations for the upper members in society to hold to their standards. They expected them to not commit crimes and be these, great stand-up people that made appearances and dressed a certain way and spoke a certain way. But the novella proves that this isn't how people really are. People have two sides to themselves, and that the Victorian era only allowed them to explore one side of themselves. It was kind of like the Victorian era caused people to conform to what they wanted. So Dr. Jekyll took offense to that, and he made a potion, and he became the guy that he also felt he was, therefore becoming his whole self by becoming Mr. Hyde without messing up his social standing. So in my opinion, that is a comparison I use from the novella I chose in the Victorian era. This is the end of my PowerPoint presentation on Robert Louis Stevenson and the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I know this picture has nothing to do with my novella, but I kind of thought it was cool in a sense because Bruce Banner does use a potion to become the Hawk. So, yeah, I just thought it was cool. Thanks for listening.